Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Notice that a few people are still in the process of signing on, so we're going to give them just a few more seconds and then we will begin. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is PJ Kling. I'm the head of product and business development for NuVoodoo. I'm joined today by Lee Jacobs, who is our head of research. As we go through this, the second in our fall webinar series, as always, we encourage you to ask questions at the end, which you can submit through your GoToWebinar control panel at any point in the presentation. Jake is standing by to compile them while we are busy yapping away. Fall is here, and that means everyone's working to figure out the best promotional tactics to tip the rating scale in their favor. So today we'll be covering a number of things specific to contesting. And within that context, we'll talk about leveraging FM's advantages over the other audio entertainment choices that are out there. We'll also discuss the growth of both smart speakers and social media, plus how to best take advantage of each. And if you do have a piece of the ever-precious pile of marketing dollars for your company, which channels is your audience paying attention to ads on? And finally, everything in recent years has been cash, cash, cash. Is that still our best foot forward, or are there other things that will move the needle? Will anyone even believe us because they think that our contests are rigged? Or are there tactics we can employ that truly help to battle that perception? All that in about 30 minutes and based on data from Ratings Prospect Study number 14 conducted in June. Now at NuVoodoo, we use data from ratings prospect studies for our clients, combined with everything from decades of industry experience to artificial intelligence and machine learning to build comprehensive plans that are laser focused on finding ratings prospects in your own market. We also use this data to hopefully help radio in general throughout the year with webinars just like these. And if your contesting and ratings goals are focused on the workplace, I highly recommend that you check out our first fall webinar, if you haven't already, How to Win the Workplace War, in which Mike and Lee dive deep into winning workplace tactics, and which can be streamed on demand at nuvoodoo.com/webinars. On to the show. First, let's start with 4 things that we know about ratings prospects. Number 1, ratings likelies over-index on everything. So anything that you think that your listeners do, these folks do more. How much they're on social media, how often they participate in contesting. Yes, these are the same people as your prize pigs. As an example, you can see here that as the amount of radio TSL goes up, so does their phone usage, which gives you that many more opportunities to reach them with your contesting or marketing message. From how much time they spend on their phones, to what ad channels they pay attention to, those likely to participate in your sample are primed to be reached by your brand. And you'll see Lee break this down further by demo in both PPM and Diary later on in today's webinar. Number 2, ratings likelies are in it for the money. If you don't believe me, believe the 29 past ratings participants who told us here in their own words why they did it. The overwhelming majority, to the tune of about 80%, are in it for cash and prizes. And don't forget that Nielsen is layering in contests and promotions to keep people in the panel and to make sure that they tune into radio and wear their meters or fill out their diaries, especially on days of historically lowered participation. Now, knowing what we know about number 2, it will not surprise you that number 3 is that cash is king. But there's a myth surrounding that $1,000 number, like it's some kind of magic number. It does test the best, but $500 trails only slightly, giving you a big opportunity. Now, any precious dollars that you have to give away locally present twice the potential occasions for the audience to tune in. But what do you do when everyone in the market is giving away cash? Well, remember that you can package cash in a lot of different ways that tout the benefit to the audience, not just the tangible effect of having cash in hand. Knowing that market contest saturation was a concern for our clients, we tested other ways to package cash giveaways, and at the risk of sounding like verbal clickbait, the top answer may surprise you. Lee's going to dive into that later on in the presentation. But when you give that money away, no matter how you give it away, and whether it's locally or when you get a local winner of a national contest, we've been preaching for the better part of 2 years that you need to celebrate your winners. And remember that to think local market winners, so that if you're doing a national contest, coordinate with your cluster mates so that when they get a winner that's P1 to them, there's no reason why you can't still go on your air and congratulate Joe B from insert your city as a local winner, even if they were listening to your sister station when they won. The bottom line is, don't just tell people you're giving the money away, prove it to them. Why? Because number 4 is that the audience thinks that your contests are rigged, that you either don't give away the money or that you're not giving it away legitimately. These data are from when we first asked the question in August of 2017, where you can see that both PPM and diary likelies, again, over-index compared to the total, and are more inclined to feel this way about your contest. So the question becomes, now some 2 years later, has that perception gotten any better? Are there other things besides featuring your winners that we can do to combat this perception? For that new data, I'd like to hand the baton over to Lee.
Thanks very much, PJ. And thanks to all of you for tuning in, as it were, today. So in these latest data, skepticism about contests oozes up a few points compared to a couple of years ago. Not a giant leap, but it's a negative perception that's not going away. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's frame up what we're looking at today. Most of these data come from NuVoodoo Ratings Prospect Study number 14, fielded at the end of May and the first day of June of this year across all 48 PPM markets, proportional to the populations of those markets. So there are more interviews here from, say, New York and LA than there are from Hartford and Memphis. Weighted to total population across that group of 48 markets for gender, age, and ethnicity, and conducted online using compensated online sample, as we do all of our research here at NuVoodoo, so that out of the gate, those respondents have at least one thing in common with Nielsen respondents: they're getting paid for their opinions. Now, when we break out the contest skeptics numbers across 13 groups of music format P1s in our sample, we see rhythmic CHR and CHR as kind of the epicenter of concern. Though the numbers at Hot AC and Urban get our attention as well at 33 and 31%. And let's face it, people who think your contest is rigged are a lot less likely to participate, which means you're less likely to impact their listening behavior, which was, after all, the reason for conducting the contest or the promotion in the first place. So when we turn around and ask contest skeptics why they feel that the contests are rigged, the number one answer is that we're trying to trick people into listening more, which is, well, 100% true. But right behind that concerns about transparency of our games float up to the top. And we think some of this is born from group contests where stations are, as PJ alluded to earlier, less likely to trumpet the latest winner because maybe the winner is from another market or from another station. And when you ask contest skeptics what we could do to change their perception, the top answers all revolve around transparency, letting them in on more of the details, posting photos or videos of the winners, listing the names of the winners, announcing winners' names on the air, sending out text message or emails or push notifications through your app. These digital tools allow these things to be done a lot more easily than they were in the past. Now, there's always a concern for giving up personal information in the digital space. We've shown in past studies that asking for only the most essential information from a listener helps to increase contest entries and makes participants less concerned that they're going to get burned by giving up their information. We say the best practice is name, email address, and just a checkbox so they can confirm they're of age to play your game. Naturally, you want to have verbiage on your sign-up page to assure them that you're not going to sell their data or spam them with things they're not interested in, and it's easy to opt out if they want to, and that you're taking steps to ensure that their information is being kept safe. With so much digital competition, it behooves us to play to our advantages to differentiate from digital pure plays. So what are FM's big advantages? The number one answer is, of course, that it's free. And those who are likely to participate in the ratings also appreciate stations' connections to their local community, personalities they enjoy, the companionship that radio offers compared to just that pure playlist on one of the digital providers, and some even remark about the commercials, alerting them to good deals. We don't think about that often, but it is a factor. And among the CHR P1s in our study, aggregated across the 48 PPM markets, if you look at it there, no subscription fee, absolutely. But the number two is DJs, host personalities that they like, or 42% say stations are connected with their community. 37%, about 3 in 8, say it's the contest, the chances to play games and contests to win something. And we know that that's an even bigger factor among ratings likelies. The commercials tell them about good deals, or you just like having a person connecting them with what's going on. Now, we're in the field with our ratings prospect studies in part twice a year because we have to keep tabs on social media for the work we do helping stations market to listeners to build bigger ratings. And among the big 5 social platforms, we're watching Facebook down from some of its previously higher numbers, but still a really healthy 57% of these 14 to 54s checking in on a daily basis. And the big news on this chart is the continuing growth of Facebook's co-owned platform, Instagram. When you winnow down to those most likely to play the ratings game with Nielsen, Facebook still, however, looks mighty powerful, vying with YouTube for leadership among PPM likelies, and still with more precise targeting available if you're looking at the Facebook Instagram platform compared to what's available in terms of targeting on YouTube. And elsewhere in the Facebook ecosystem is Instagram, generating huge numbers among ratings likelies. But of course, the details are important. Facebook remains incredibly potent as well among those in the top quintile of FM listeners, those listening at least 2 hours a day. If we take the filter of ratings likelihood off, we can show you daily usage for social platforms among these 13 P1 music P1 constituencies that we're tracking these days. Contemporary Christian, new with this latest ratings prospect studies, shows 56% daily usage for Facebook, 71% at YouTube, and then it drops down pretty precipitously, just 27%, just a little bit over a quarter every day on Instagram, 16% on Twitter, and just 11% on Snapchat. We can also look at this through the prism of spoken word formats. It will not surprise you that just 8% of NPR P1s check in with Snapchat, but 58% check in with YouTube. That's daily usage of social media, but we can refine the question to look at where respondents notice advertising and open up to the world outside just social media. Among PPM likelies, we see YouTube as a powerful ad delivery platform along with Facebook, websites overall, direct mail, and billboards. By the way, radio is a potent tool as well. If we'd broken out these numbers by TSL quintiles, you'd see that radio tells a compelling story for its top 2 quintiles especially. And those are the first to notice the changes in your programming, the new contests and promotions you're rolling out, as well as station events that you're talking about. Similar profiles among diary keepers, including the big number for direct mail. If you're willing to fill out a pamphlet with all of your listening for a week, it stands to reason that you're going to be susceptible to other paper offers you get from the post office. So getting the right media mix is something our marketing folks sweat for every single client, every opportunity.
Yeah, because there are nuances to each format that you're in, the demo that you're trying to reach, or the contesting you plan to do this fall, it's important to remember that there is no one-size-fits-all marketing solution that works every time for every station. And even when you find something that works once, twice, or even more, we still have to keep asking the questions of the audience so that we know when and how the landscape is changing. That's also why we don't just slap something boilerplate onto our clients and just keep our fingers crossed that it works. We build everything custom for each situation, focusing on the data that we know and the best practices that we've learned.
Yeah, we know that a lot of today's digital ad units revolve around the video, so we thought we should take a look at how people report their behavior concerning these newer ad units, the video ad units, and where they're most likely to notice them. Overall, most of us skip the ad the moment we're allowed to do so. That 56% in the gold column is on the left. You see them. That's most of us. But you notice that about half the ratings likelies say they watch the ad all the way through with the sound on, the red columns, 49% among the PPM likelies or 51% among the diary likelies. Another 10 or 11% keep the sound muted if possible, the percentages in orange, so you've got to tell the story with visuals for those folks. And a small nub, it's true, they avoid the ads, even if that means they don't get to see the content that they'd hoped to watch. YouTube is at the top of the food chain as a video for ad delivery tools for these music format P1s. And the right smartphone apps work well for younger female targeted formats, and Facebook remains surprisingly potent as a video ad delivery system. Fewer options for connecting with spoken word P1s, though all news P1s in particular are kind of periscope up people, more connected with their world, and so they connect with a lot of content across a pretty wide spectrum of platforms. Among PPM likelies, YouTube, that's the big dog, but even video games show potential with those under 45, as well as Hulu as becoming another place that you can place video ads. The story is similar among the likely diary keepers as it applies to YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, the foundational three, with possible assistance from smartphone apps as well.
Now, because YouTube is now consistently at the top when it comes to video ad consumption, let's quickly take a look at why that is from a product perspective. You worried about people bailing before they hear your message? Well, it's always important to get the call to action in the first 5 seconds of any video ads that you run. But with YouTube bumper ads, you really kind of have no choice, as these are 6-second non-skippable ads. They run in-stream, pre-roll, and post-roll, meaning that they are next to other video content. And the default is that the sound is on. So in addition to their ability to achieve great reach and frequency, the audience has the added benefit of hearing your message, not just seeing it. YouTube TrueView ads also default to having the sound on, but it's a little trickier when it comes to people watching the content since they are skippable. If you have really good content about your contest, say your morning show did a great bid on it, or maybe your promotion this fall is the fact that you just launched a new format and you're telling people what you're about. If it's 30 or more seconds, what's great about TrueView ads is that you're only paying for them when they get to that 30-second mark or the end of the video if it's shorter than that. So while these are skippable, you're paying for engagement only, not impressions. And coming soon, YouTube is rolling out their answer to Facebook's lead gen ads, which we use a lot with our clients for name game style promotions like Progressive Payday, which you can find out more about on the marketing section of NuVoodoo.com or in the webinar that we did on it on the webinars page. And these are called TrueView for Action lead forms, where you can collect database right in the platform's user experience, making it easier for the audience to participate in your contest and adding a layer of engagement to your ads.
Now, we've been tracking smart speakers since the summer of 2017, and the hits, as they say, just keep on coming. We're now showing a slender majority of these 14 to 54s pulled from the 48 ppm markets with at least one smart speaker in their lives. And if the 51% doesn't catch your attention, the number climbs to about 2 and 3 among the subsets of the sample who would be likely to play along with Nielsen. Would it be ppm or a diary? And admittedly, these are just ppm markets, but we have a proprietary set of 4 questions to identify as well the subset who would take a diary if offered. And we think of it as a psychographic more than a place, the kind of person who would fill out a paper pamphlet with all of their listening for a week. Either group, either ppm or diary likely, account for about 15% of the sample, and they overlap but not entirely. They're a little bit different. And we started tracking these smart speaker devices 3 years ago, but the product lines are changing way too often. The point is, though, that they're all growing, though we're showing a surge for the Google Home device since January of this year in these data. When we ask people where they have their smart speakers, the combined numbers now exceed 200%, meaning lots of people have more than one device. The bedroom remains the main location, but with more folks adopting a second or third device, the living room is becoming a hub. But Amazon wants to expand Alexa out of the home.
Yeah, guess where it's headed next? Welcome to Echo Auto. It is still by invitation only, so you should try to get an invitation for yourself so you can see what's coming. Lee and I have actually both had the privilege of playing with one for the last couple of weeks. It's a small barrier for entry for both you and the audience at only $25. And look, it's not perfect, but I will say this. It is scarier than I expected it to be because it is easier than I expected it to be. If you've already got Echo devices in your house, this becomes a natural extension and one that radio absolutely needs to prepare for.
Amen. And I saw over the weekend that, this technology is coming to the Toyota Prius, and it's easier to use than I expected as well. And it means you're connecting with your local stations via their stream. So we'll say again that it's even more important than ever to make it easy and reliable to connect so that they know what to say as you're trying to figure out whether you can get around the yuts in front of you who's taking too long to make their right-hand turn. Not having to think too hard about what it is you need to ask Alexa to do so that she'll play the station you want is really, really important. And we're watching audio uses grow across smart speaker owners and users. Terrestrial absolutely has a play here, and it is important. And while watching the percentage complaining they've had trouble connecting on a smart speaker are down, at 37%, 3 and 8, we still think it's too high. We simply have to tell them exactly what they say so that they can hear the station when they want, and then the station's reliability on its stream has to be as wonderful and perfect as that terrestrial signal that we've been working on for decades does as well. And to make sure everything works great every time, because we're seeing that among the heaviest quintile of FM listeners, 40% report that they have trouble listening to a station online or within an app. Tech on the streaming side needs to be as rock solid and perfect as the terrestrial signal. So simply put, what messages and tactics are most likely to get their attention? We've narrowed the percentages here to be those who say they're extremely interested in these concepts. And the top rank would be about 50% playing 50% fewer commercials. That gets people's attention. In fact, the top 3 overall here are all about reduced inventory. Number 4 is about songs you don't hear so much on the radio. Powerful idea. If only people would tolerate listening to songs that some other people like, but maybe not them. That doesn't work as well as it seems it would. Then the contest-connected ideas. And at the end of our ranking, a brand new station, which happily does get the attention of a slim majority of ratings likelies, and being the #1 station in the ratings, definitely an advertiser benefit, just less potent with listeners. Across the demos among PPM likelies, as potent among 18 to 34s, as playing 50% fewer commercials, is giving away $1,000 at 9 a.m. every day. Similar performance for diary likely 18 to 34s for the $1,000 workday kickoff. You'll also see some big numbers for the idea of giving away $500 in commercial-free cash during extended music sweeps. That idea of connecting your cash to the music, to the commercial-free periods on your station. And since we've been talking about commercial inventory, I wanted to mention this. We picked up lots of comments in the studies that we've done for clients in the past year that people are noticing all the breaks stack up. So we floated the concept to see if that was just a few outliers or if that's a widespread opinion. And it is. Better than 3 in 5 among the PPM or diary likely say, yeah, I've noticed all the stations seem to break for commercials at the same time. PJ showed the data earlier that cash is king and that $1,000 isn't twice as good as $500. But when everyone's giving away a $1,000 prize or a $500 prize, it's tough to stand out. So this time around in our ratings prospect study, we explored concepts outside the usual cash bribes. Now keep in mind, these data were collected before news of some oil tankers being pirated sprung up this summer, and certainly well outside the latest attacks on Saudi providers. But free gas for a year actually topped our scale here, particularly among ratings likelies. If I look through the PPM likelies by demo, let's just take 25 to 44s, for example. At the top, free gas for a year. Then at 83%, your utility bills paid for 3 months, a chance at $1 million, just that insured prize kind of opportunity to dream big. Then tied, all group at 81%. These are all ticks off one way or the other. Your mortgage or rent paid, your housing covered, that is. Or where a listener might win 20 grand, that's pretty big cash, with a chance to go into a bank vault and grab up to $100,000. And then the more practical $500 twice every workday or $100 every hour. There are some markets, you need to know what the tolerance is in your market. In some places, $100 is a pretty fun contest prize. It isn't going to change your life, but it's nice to have. In some places, people won't go across town to get $100. Your car payment's paid for 3 months. And then we stacked up a group contest idea that was as extravagant as we could come up with. $5,000 every hour, 9 to 5. And then you put on the codicil that, but you'll be playing against people all over the country, and that drops the number somewhat. Now, the thing is, most people don't know that these group contests are going on at all. So it's really not in your way most of the time. In fact, when you combine the people who are aware that group contests take place, and then among that subset who thinks it's a bad idea, you're down in the mid-single digits. It's not a huge headwind, but it is an opportunity if you're playing against one of them to call out the fact that all of your winners are local and the participants are playing only against people within your market. And we reach back to our January study to show these data about contest preferences. Among the ratings likelies, what we call the name game, where listeners register and then listen for their name, rises up to the top, followed by texting to win. You'll also note the percentage who say they're immune to contests drops from 15% overall to just 6 or 7% among ratings likelies. They are just simply more contest friendly. And we know there's nothing like seeing a phone bank stacked with calls, but the numbers for call-in contests are down. The one thing we'll say in defense of the call-in contest is they make it easy to get winner audio to prove that your contest is legit, which kind of ties us back to where we began and leaves us time to answer your questions. Our producer, Jake, has been mining the chat field on GoToWebinar while I've been blathering. So, Jake, what can we answer?
Great. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. First question is, it seems Facebook and Instagram and YouTube are tied in terms of PPM appeal for a lot of demos and formats. So for stations with a smaller budget that can only afford one campaign, which platform do we prefer and why?
Well, there's certainly benefits to both, and there's no real quick and easy answer to that. On one hand, Facebook and Instagram base their targeting on people, not devices, which we like a lot. It gives you a lot more flexibility as well when targeting people's interests and behaviors, both online and offline. It also gives us the ability to do more with custom and lookalike audiences, where we can use data modeling to expand your potential listener footprint. For YouTube, some of their products like TrueView that we discussed earlier allow us to just pay for engagement, not just awareness and impressions. Now, the downside of that is that it can eat up budget quickly, so we always recommend that you pair it with something like bumper videos so that you can still get that reach and frequency with shorter ads and then longer ads for the people who deeply engage. The latter, think of it as a place to tell a brand story along with giving a bribe. The former is just going to be for bribes only. YouTube also has the advantage of being able to model consumer-facing Nielsen website traffic to find people that are like the people who exhibit panelist and diary keeper behavior. We can also use keywords in our targeting there, so that messaging is more apt to appear in front of video content that's related to, say, your format music or spoken word subject matter. When you consider how much younger audiences are using YouTube for music discovery, that kind of thing can be very powerful. Each of the platforms have their pitfalls, but the Google YouTube side can be a particular struggle. We've encountered a lot of disapproved ads for contesting because of claims of false or misleading advertising because their bots are seeing your chance to win $1,000 as a get-rich-quick scheme or some other kind of scam. In other words, they think your contests are rigged even more than the audience does. So you also have to work to white label station sites and streams because of copyrighted content like the music that you play and the concerts that you promote. We handle it all on behalf of our clients, but just know that if you do it on your own, that it's going to be something you have to deal with moving forward on that particular platform. The bottom line is I still think Facebook's targeting is better and more precise when it comes to PPM and diary likely, so I would lean in that direction, but depending on what your contesting or promotion is and the kinds of creative you can produce and get the audience to respond to, that might push you in YouTube's direction instead.
Great. Next question is, how come our smart speaker penetration rates are so high? This person's heard others suggesting that only about 1/3 of the country has a smart speaker, and do we really think it's half?
Yeah, I really believe that, but keep in mind, some of the reporting you see is just across the population, everybody, or you see some research samples that are based upon 18 plus, where we're at 14 to 54. If Madison Avenue changes its mind and gives 55 plus its due, then we'll change our techniques. But right now we stop our sample at 54. So we're talking 14 to 54s in what are basically the top 48 markets in the country, a more urban group of places. And so, yeah, we absolutely think it's within the realm of belief that half of those people in that age group among that tier of markets have access to a smart speaker. And by the way, if it was a little bit lower than that, say you think it's only 1/3 nationwide, you want to let this opportunity go. Our data say that these are getting located in bedrooms, which gives an opportunity to replace the functionality of the old clock radio, which is now about as common as a rotary phone, but they could listen to your morning show while they putter around their bedrooms in the morning and get ready for work or school. That's a pretty huge opportunity.
Great, thanks. Next question is, where do phone calls rank compared to outdoor, mail, digital, etc.? We had touched on people paying attention to ads and ad channels, but doesn't everyone hate getting a call from any telemarketer?
Well, we know that landlines are eroding, and that assumes that you can even get someone on the phone, plus things like do not call lists and other state and local regulations. So yes, calling people at home is bad. But we know through ratings prospect studies that ratings likelies are open to hearing from stations at work. And when a station calls with an offer of cash, we see response rates and receptivity climb to as high as 60%. That's also something covered, by the way, in more detail in the How to Win the Workplace War webinar that Mike and Lee did a couple of weeks ago.
Great, thanks. And the last question is, for stations needing to target African Americans and or Hispanics, what are the best marketing channels to use in our opinion?
Well, direct mail is king, actually, as it is the best for household level targeting, particularly for specific ethnic targeting. Now, on the digital side, we still think Facebook and Instagram give the best ability to target those groups in 2019, although they don't use third-party data related to offline behavior and household information like they used to, but they still have ways to infer some of that data. Now, on the flip side, for those trying to target quote-unquote other, exclusions in 2019 outside of direct mail are really hard to do. Facebook, for example, won't allow you to not target African Americans or Hispanics through their platform. And the main reason for that is not because of radio, it's because of ad categories that tend to discriminate, like housing and then other regulatory actions and so forth that prevent that. We do have a good workaround that we use for our clients called IP address match targeting, which allow us to use the offline mailing list data and match that so that we can equate home internet to that mailing list so that when those devices are at home using that home internet, those matching devices can get served ads.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for your questions.
So thank you very, very much for being here. A recording of today's webinar, including anything that PJ or I stumbled over, will be in your email inbox within 24 hours. You can also you'll be able to find a recording of this webinar, as well as all of our past webinars at nuvoodoo.com/webinars. And so we really thank you all. So on behalf of our producer, Jake, and PJ and myself, thanks so much for attending this time.